The morning of my mother's funeral was supposed to be about saying goodbye, not defending my right to grieve, but there stood my sister Victoria, blocking my path to the casket, her designer black dress pristine while mascara ran down her cheeks in perfectly tragic streams. "You have some nerve showing up here," she hissed, loud enough for the arriving guests to hear. "After everything you put Mom through, I'm Maya Thompson, 34, and for the past 15 years, I've been the family's dirty secret, the daughter who chose nursing over law school, the one who threw away her potential to care for strangers instead of chasing prestige, the disappointment who spent her weekends at the hospital instead of country clubs." But what Victoria didn't know, what none of them knew, was that I'd spent the last 5 years as Mom's primary caregiver. Every chemo appointment, every sleepless night, every moment of fear and pain, I was there. They were not. "I'm here to say goodbye to my mother," I said quietly, trying to step around her. Victoria grabbed my arm, her manicured nails digging in. "Your mother? You're not even her real daughter." The words echoed through the funeral home. Conversation stopped. Our family friends, Mom's colleagues from her years as a judge, everyone turned to stare. There it was, the accusation she'd held over me since we were teenagers, when she'd found my adoption papers while snooping through Mom's files. "Biology doesn't determine family," I replied, keeping my voice steady despite the grief and exhaustion weighing on me. "It determines inheritance," Victoria sneered, "and you're not getting a penny of what Mom left behind. I've already called the lawyers, the house, the investments, the jewelry, it's all going to her real family." Our brother James appeared at her side, forever her loyal shadow. At 38, he still let Victoria make all his decisions. "She's right, Maya, you should leave. This is a family matter. I've been more family to Mom than either of you," I said, my composure finally cracking. "Where were you during her treatments, when she needed help bathing, when she cried from the pain at 3 a.m? We have careers," Victoria spat, "real careers, not emptying bedpans like some." "That's enough." The deep voice came from behind me. Marcus Webb, Mom's estate attorney for the past 20 years, stood in the doorway. His presence commanded immediate attention, silver-haired, impeccably dressed, carrying himself with the authority of someone who'd seen every type of family drama. "Mr. Webb," Victoria immediately shifted to her professional voice, the one she used in court. "I'm glad you're here. We need to discuss the estate immediately. This woman," she gestured at me like I was something distasteful, "is trying to interfere with family matters." Marcus looked at her with barely concealed disdain. "Miss Thompson, I'm aware of who Maya is. I'm also aware that your mother's will reading is scheduled for after the service. I suggest we all focus on paying our respects first." But Victoria wouldn't let it go. She'd inherited Mom's stubbornness but none of her compassion. "There's no point in her staying. She's not a beneficiary. Mom told me herself, everything goes to her biological children." "When did Mom tell you this?" I asked, genuinely curious. "During one of your monthly 5-minute phone calls? Or was it during the Christmas dinner you skipped for your Aspen trip?" James shifted uncomfortably. He'd at least visited Mom twice during her illness, though both times he'd spent more time on his phone than talking to her. "Last year," Victoria said triumphantly. "She said she was leaving everything to James and me, the house, the portfolio, everything, 50-50. Marcus cleared his throat. "I really must insist we wait." "No," Victoria cut him off. "I want this settled now. I want her out." She turned to the funeral director. "This woman is not family. Please escort her out." The funeral director looked helplessly between us. More guests were arriving, creating a bottleneck at the entrance as they tried to process the scene before them. "Victoria," I said softly, "Mom is lying in that casket. Can we please? Don't you dare act like you cared about her." Victoria's voice rose to a near shriek. "You were nothing but a burden, a charity case she took in out of pity. You think playing nurse for a few months erases 20 years of disappointment?" The words hit like physical blows. Every insecurity, every moment of feeling less than, every time I'd wondered if Mom regretted adopting me, Victoria knew exactly where to strike. "A few months?" I laughed bitterly. "Try 5 years. 5 years of doctors, hospitals, home care. Where were you when she had her first stroke? When she couldn't remember your names but still asked for her sweet Maya?" "Lies." James finally spoke up. "Mom was fine until recently. Mom hid her illness from you because you couldn't handle it." I shot back. "She didn't want to burden your important lives." Marcus stepped forward, his patience clearly exhausted. "Given the circumstances, and with apologies to Helen's memory, I believe we should proceed with the reading now." He pulled out his phone. "I'm calling my assistant to bring the documents." "Good," Victoria said, satisfaction glowing in her eyes. "Let's make this official. Then she can leave." We moved to the funeral home's small conference room, the tension thick enough to choke on. Victoria and James sat on one side of the table like they were preparing for a business negotiation. I sat alone on the other, Marcus at the head. As we waited for his assistant, Victoria couldn't resist twisting the knife further. You know, Maya, I almost feel sorry for you, spending all those years trying to worm your way into Mom's good graces. But blood is blood. She probably left you some small token, maybe that old nursing textbook she kept, something appropriate for your station. I remained silent, focusing on breathing through the pain. Mom was gone, that was what mattered. Not money, not houses, just the fact that the woman who'd chosen me, raised me, loved me despite everything, was gone. Marcus's assistant arrived, a young woman carrying a leather portfolio. She handed it to Marcus and left quickly, clearly sensing the hostile atmosphere. Before I begin, Marcus said, opening the portfolio, I should note that Helen updated her will 6 months ago. She was of completely sound mind, and the changes were witnessed by myself and 2 other attorneys from my firm. Victoria waved dismissively, just get on with it. Marcus pulled out a document and began reading. I, Helen Marie Thompson, being of sound mind and body, do hereby declare this to be my last will and testament, revoking all previous wills and codicils. He continued through the legal preamble while Victoria drummed her fingers impatiently on the table. To my son, James Robert Thompson, Marcus read, and James sat up straighter. I leave the sum of $50,000 and my collection of first edition books, knowing he will appreciate their value. James blinked. 50,000? But, please allow me to continue. Marcus said firmly, to my daughter, Victoria and Thompson, I leave the sum of $50,000 and my jewelry collection, with the exception of the pieces specifically designated elsewhere in this document. Victoria's face went pale. That's impossible. The house, the investments. Marcus continued reading. The remainder of my estate, including my primary residence at 42 Oak Hill Drive, all investment accounts, my retirement funds, and all other assets not specifically designated above, I leave to my daughter, Maya Grace Thompson. The silence was deafening. There's more, Marcus said. I would like to explain my decision, as I know it will come as a surprise to some. Victoria and James, you are my biological children, and I love you, but love is not just about blood, it's about presence, sacrifice, and choice. Maya came into our family when she was 3 years old, a scared little girl who had already seen too much hardship.
I chose her, just as she chose to love me back despite having every reason not to trust another adult. She has been my daughter in every way that matters. While you both built your impressive careers and I am proud of your accomplishments, Maya chose a different path. She became a nurse, dedicating her life to caring for others. When I was diagnosed with cancer 5 years ago, I hid it from you, Victoria and James, because I knew you would see it as an inconvenience. But Maya knew. She always knew when something was wrong. She spent every free moment caring for me. She moved into the guest room when I could no longer manage alone. She held my hand through treatments, cleaned up when I was sick, and never once complained. She sacrificed promotions, relationships, and her own health to ensure I wasn't alone. Victoria, you visited me 3 times in 5 years. James, you managed 5 visits. You both sent flowers and cards, but you sent them to Maya to give to me because you couldn't even remember my new address after I had to sell the old house to pay for treatments. This is not about punishment. This is about recognizing who truly understands the meaning of family. Maya, my darling daughter, you were never a charity case. You were the greatest gift of my life. Take care of the house. It needs someone who understands that homes are built with love, not just money. Marcus set down the paper. There's also a personal letter for each of you, to be opened privately. Victoria's face had gone from white to red to purple. This is fraud. She wasn't in her right mind. The cancer, the medications. I have extensive medical documentation and video testimony confirming Helen's mental capacity. Marcus interrupted, as well as affidavits from her doctors. This will is ironclad. She manipulated her. Victoria stood up, slamming her hands on the table. She turned our mother against us, played the martyr while poisoning her mind. Sit down, I said quietly. Everyone turned to look at me. What? Victoria snarled. Sit down, I repeated. You want to know the truth? Mom didn't leave you the house because she knew exactly what you'd do with it. You'd sell it to the highest bidder without a second thought. That house isn't just property, it's where she raised us, where she hosted 30 years of Christmas dinners, where she planted those roses the year Dad died. I stood up, matching Victoria's stance. She didn't leave you the money because she knew you already have more than you could ever spend. Your husband's trust fund. Your corporate salary, you don't need it. You wanted it because you measure love in dollar signs. How dare you? I'm not finished, I said, finding strength I didn't know I had. You called me a charity case? You're right, I was. I was a broken, traumatized toddler when mom chose me. She could have adopted a baby, someone without baggage. Instead, she chose the difficult path because that's who she was. She saw a child who needed love and decided to provide it. No questions asked, no conditions attached. Tears were flowing freely down my face now. She taught me that family isn't about blood, it's about showing up. It's about 2 a.m. hospital runs and holding someone's hair when they're sick from chemo. It's about reading the same book 50 times when dementia starts stealing memories. It's about love in action, not just words. You poisoned her against us, James said weakly, but even he didn't sound convinced. No, I said, you abandoned her. And the saddest part? She still loved you. She kept your photos by her bed. She made excuses for your absence. She blamed herself for raising children who valued success over family. I pulled out my phone and showed them the screen. These are my call logs with mom. Every single day for 5 years, sometimes multiple times a day. Where are yours? Neither of them answered. Marcus cleared his throat. There's one more matter, Victoria. Regarding your statement that Maya would inherit your house, you were partially correct. Helen held the deed to your property. Victoria's face went white again. What? The down payment for your home came from Helen, Marcus explained. She structured it as a purchase rather than a gift, maintaining ownership while allowing you to live there. As part of her estate, that property now transfers to Maya as well. No, Victoria whispered. No, that's our home, our children. You have 30 days to either purchase the property at market value or vacate. Marcus continued. Helen's letter to you explains her reasoning. Victoria snatched the envelope with her name and tore it open. As she read, tears began falling, real ones this time, not the performance from earlier. She knew, Victoria said numbly. She knew we were planning to put her in a facility. My heart stopped. What? James looked at the floor. We thought, with her health declining, it would be better. You were going to put her in a home? I couldn't breathe. When? We had a meeting scheduled for next month, Victoria admitted, to tour facilities. Now I understood. Mom's final update to her will wasn't just about recognizing my care, it was about protecting herself from children who saw her as an inconvenience to be managed. Marcus stood. I'll leave you to process this. Maya, please contact my office to begin the transfer procedures. He paused at the door. For what it's worth, Helen spoke of you often. She said you were the daughter she prayed for but didn't know she needed. She was immensely proud of the woman you became. After he left, we sat in silence. Finally, Victoria spoke, her voice small and broken. I don't even know who you are anymore. I'm the same person I've always been. I said, the sister you refused to acknowledge, the daughter you tried to erase, the nurse you mocked. But more importantly, I'm the person who loved our mother enough to be there when it mattered. I stood to leave, then turned back. The house, your house, I won't take it. I'm not cruel, but you need to understand something. Mom didn't leave me her estate as a reward. She left it to me because she knew I'd honor her memory, maintain her garden, host family dinners even if no one comes. She knew I'd keep her alive in the only way that matters, through love and remembrance. Maya, James said quietly, we didn't know about the 5 years. We thought, you thought what you wanted to think because it was easier than facing your guilt. I said, but it's not too late. Mom's gone, but we're still here. We can either let this destroy what's left of our family, or we can try to build something new. Something honest. Victoria was sobbing now, her perfect makeup destroyed. She must have hated us. I walked over and put my hand on her shoulder. No, she loved you both fiercely, but love doesn't mean enabling. Love means wanting people to be better than they are. Mom's final gift to you wasn't money, it was a mirror. The question is, what will you do with what you see? I left them there and returned to the main room where Mom lay. The funeral director had done a beautiful job. She looked peaceful, free from pain at last. I kissed her forehead one last time. Thank you, I whispered, for choosing me, for loving me, for teaching me that family is a verb, not just a noun. I promise to take care of everything you loved. Rest now. Mom, you've more than earned it. As I stood by her casket, people began approaching me. Mom's friends, her former colleagues, nurses from the hospital where she'd received treatment. Each one had a story about her kindness, her strength, her love for her children, all her children. She talked about you constantly, one of her former colleagues said. Maya this, Maya that. How you'd worked a double shift but still came to check on her. How you'd learned to make her favorite soup exactly right. She glowed when she spoke of you. By the time the service began, Victoria and James had composed themselves enough to sit in the front row. Victoria caught my eye and patted the seat beside her, the first genuine invitation she'd extended in 20 years. I sat down, and she grabbed my hand, squeezing it tightly. "I'm sorry," she whispered, "for everything, for the real daughter comment, for not being there, for treating you like you were less than us. We'll work through it," I whispered back. "That's what family does."
As the minister spoke about Mom's life, her dedication to justice and fairness, her belief in the power of love to transform lives, I realized her final will wasn't just about distributing assets. It was her last act as a judge, rendering a verdict on what truly matters in life. Later that evening, after the burial, the three of us sat in Mom's kitchen, my kitchen now, though I couldn't quite process that. I made tea using her favorite pot, the one with the chip on the handle she refused to replace. "I don't want the house," Victoria said suddenly, "not through force, but maybe we could work something out. James and I could pay you for our shares, keep it in the family." I shook my head. "This isn't about money, Victoria, it never was. Tell me, without looking, what color are the kitchen walls?" She frowned. "White, pale yellow. Mom painted them herself 10 years ago because they reminded her of sunshine." "What's her favorite flower in the garden?" Silence. "Iris, purple ones specifically. Dad gave her bulbs for their first anniversary. She divided them every year, and now they cover the entire south border." James stared into his tea. "We really didn't know her anymore, did we?" "You can still know her," I said, "through the stories I can tell, through the photos she kept, through Sunday dinners if you'll come. This house isn't mine, it's ours. I'm just the caretaker." Mom knew I'd keep her traditions alive, but traditions mean nothing without family to share them. Victoria's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, then turned it off, possibly the first time I'd ever seen her ignore a work call. "Sunday dinners? Every week, 5 p.m. Mom's pot roast recipe." "I don't even know where you live," James admitted. "Your apartment." "I mean, I don't have one. I've been here for 3 years. Gave up my place when Mom needed round-the-clock care." They exchanged shocked looks. 3 years, and they hadn't known. We talked until dawn. Really talked for the first time in decades. About Mom's illness. About childhood memories they'd buried under ambition. About the different paths we'd taken and why. Victoria admitted she'd resented me from the start, the chosen child who threatened her position. James confessed he'd followed Victoria's lead because it was easier than thinking for himself. "Mom saw through all of us," I said as the sun began rising. "She knew you two were struggling with Dad's death in your own ways, Victoria by trying to control everything, James by checking out. She knew I was desperate to prove I belonged. She loved us all, flaws included, but she loved you best," Victoria said, and for once, there was no bitterness in it. "No," I corrected, "she loved me differently. I was the child who needed her most, so she gave me the most. Not money or advantages, time, attention, presence, the things that actually matter." Over the following weeks, we began the slow process of rebuilding. Victoria and James helped sort through Mom's belongings, discovering pieces of their childhood they'd forgotten. We found letters she'd written but never sent, pouring out her love and disappointment in equal measure. The house deed transfer was completed, but I had Marcus draw up new papers, putting the house in a family trust requiring all 3 of our signatures for any major decisions. It would remain the Thompson family home, shared and protected. Victoria kept her house, of course. I'd never intended to take it, I just needed her to understand how Mom felt, how it feels to have your home, your security, threatened by family who should protect you. 6 months later, our Sunday dinners have become tradition. Victoria brings her children, who are learning to call me Aunt Maya without the quotation marks their mother used to put around it. James comes with his partner, someone he'd been too afraid to introduce to Mom but who I welcomed with open arms. We don't always get along, old wounds take time to heal, but we show up, we try. We honor the woman who taught us that love isn't just a feeling, it's a choice you make every day. On the anniversary of Mom's death, we stood together in her garden, now blooming with those purple irises she loved. Victoria had helped me plant new bulbs, finally learning their significance. James had repaired the garden bench where Mom used to sit and read. "She'd be proud," Victoria said, linking her arm through mine. "She'd be relieved," I corrected. This is all she wanted, her children, together, choosing family over everything else. As we stood there, 3 orphans bound by more than blood, I understood Mom's final lesson. Family isn't about what you're given, it's about what you choose to build. She had chosen me, a broken child, and built something beautiful. Now it was our turn to choose each other and build something even better. The inheritance was never about money or property, it was about inheriting her values, her capacity for love, her belief in redemption. In the end, we all got exactly what we needed, a second chance at being the family she always knew we could be.